Got this water from the Palm Springs. So this movie, Palm Springs, is a Hulu original. It features Andy Samberg and Kristen Milioti, and more of a modern rom-com with a little bit of sci-fi thrown in the mix. Definitely more of a rom-com, but the sci-fi is what makes the whole story work. It begins with a wedding. And then Andy Samberg and Kristen Milioti leave the wedding to go hook up, but then while they're in the middle of hooking up, Andy Samberg gets shot in the arm with an arrow. And then he runs to find safety because he has an arrow in his arm, and then there's this glowing cave, and then Kristen Milioti's like, oh, what's this? And he's like, no, don't go in. But then, of course, she goes in. Turns out that by going into the cave, you are now trapped in a time loop where you have to wake up and relive the same day over and over again for eternity. What? A glowing cave? Don't mind if I do. Got this water from the Palm Springs. So this movie, anyway, because they have to relive the same day over and over again, they spend a lot of time together basically doing whatever they want. Their whole philosophy is that since they know they'll wake up at the beginning of the same day regardless of what they do, nothing they do really matters at all. Which I thought would be an interesting concept to work around because, you know, who doesn't love nihilism in a time when being edgy and sophisticated makes you sound super cool on the internet? But anytime they had a philosophical conversation, it came off as corny and oversimplified. There was one scene when Andy and Kristen's characters were in the car talking about the logistics of the whole time loop thing, and it's around the time when Kristen's character is just starting to figure out that nothing she does will matter. And the whole thing was just so superficial. It was almost like they were trying too hard to be deep, which, when you try too hard to be deep, can come off as, like, pretentious and annoying. But when they did it, they weren't trying to be super pretentious. They were just kind of trying to be like, nothing we do matters, we're so cool, which kind of made it a little more annoying. And that was actually something that bothered me a lot towards the beginning of the movie because it felt like you had these super corny characters trying to tackle these larger-than-life ideas and concepts in the most cliche way possible. It was like the movie was that fake woke dude who just comes up to you at a party and randomly asks you what the point of life is, saying some shit like, I'm about to blow your mind. And he has a jewel in one hand and a natty light in the other. Okay, but even with all that being said, I will say the movie definitely grew on me as it went on, mainly because it stopped taking itself so seriously. The second half of the movie is less about, oh my god, life is meaningless, we can do whatever we want, and more about the characters actually coming together and figuring themselves out. So once they put the philosophical sci-fi stuff on the back burner, the rom-com side of the movie comes out, and it shines through. Like, Andy Samberg and Kristen Milioti in a rom-com together is the thing you didn't really know you wanted, but worked out in the end anyway. And then you actually get some cheesy, feel-good rom-com emotion once they figure out that they are not a philosophical sci-fi movie, they are a rom-com movie. But at the same time, the romance wouldn't work had they not had the sci-fi element at the beginning. So it works, but it doesn't work. And it works for reasons that I think could have been done better. I also thought the humor picked up in the second half of the movie because towards the beginning, like, I'm not gonna lie, Andy Samberg's character was just very cringy. Kind of felt like he was like a middle-aged white dad trapped in Andy Samberg's body just making dad jokes. But again, as the movie went on, a lot more of his jokes began to land. Kristen Milioti was pretty solid throughout the whole thing. She didn't really have any moments that took my breath away, but I thought she fit the vibe and the aesthetic of the movie pretty well. So yeah, at the end of the day, the acting was fine. My main issue was just the writing. Because again, it felt like this movie, at times, was trying too hard to be super thought-provoking or insightful. But overall, it was a fun movie to watch. So, I'm thinking I give Palm Springs a 7 out of 10. Let me know what you think. Agree, disagree, whatever, later.